Hey everyone, welcome back to another live session. This is a very nice and special one because I am joined by my very good friend Engin, and this is why I love the work I do because I make so many friends when I travel, and it's just really fun and nice to meet new people, but and also learn new things from them, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to learn a lot of nice things from Engin, and we're going to talk about I get a lot of questions around. Cloud native careers. So there's cloud engineering, now platform engineering. Some people say DevOps, is a job title. Some say it's not. It's fine, whatever works for you. And then we have so many questions around how to get started, and also around managing your infrastructures. And now we're living in the age of AI. So many companies are utilizing AI to make their products better, make the life of developers easy. This is also something I saw at KubeCon, not just specific to AI, but a lot of companies were helping developers, because Kubernetes is complex, and it's just it's complex, so devs don't they have a hard time or whatever. But we have Engin here today who's going to share with us how to manage your infrastructure, increase developer productivity, um, and show some hands-on demo as well. And you can follow along side by side, or you can just watch, enjoy, and ask your questions live. And Engin, really nice to have you on the channel. Would you like to give yourself a quick intro?
Yes, thanks a lot, Kunal, for inviting me. Yes, my name is Engi Didi. I'm working, as you can see, at Pulumi, and we do infrastructure as code. You may heard about it. I don't know if anybody had the chance to work on this. And yes, I would like to introduce some parts of our product called Pulumi AI and how Pulumi AI will help your productivity when working with infrastructure as code. So that's something I would like to show to you. And of course, I'm not an expert in every cloud neither. So for me, for example, I'm also using Pulumi AI for my own stuff. So I'm working at customer experience architect. So when we have a problem with a customer, for example, asking a question, I also go to our own service and check for some answers. And you will see what I mean when I show this. So let me quickly share my screen, and this is always an issue. So share screen, entire screen. Okay, so let me share and also share my slides. Okay, as Kunal mentioned, feel free to ask any question. I will not see the chat, but Kunal can just interrupt and ask for any questions. So shortly, again, for me, yes, I mentioned this, I'm working at Pulumi as a customer experience architect. I'm very much into all the subjects about cloud transformation and cloud enablement. And as probably most of you folks also like to continuous everything, that means from CI to deployments and everything. So trying to do as much as automation as possible, and it makes really fun sometimes. Underneath you will see my social handles, so feel free to drop me a follow or check some of my code on GitHub, some of the example codes, everything will be there. Shortly, agenda, very important, so what we're going to expect today. So yes, I will do a short introduction of Pulumi to give you a basic understanding of what is Pulumi doing, what is Pulumi, because maybe you don't know Pulumi, you never had the chance to play with it. And then we switch over to the question to say, okay, AI, why is AI continue to rise, and how Pulumi AI is working on this, and then seeing also some very live action. So I'm also in the action part, I'm very happy to take some of your comments and try this out with some of your suggestions. So that will be a fun part. First of all, disclaimer, everything I show in this presentation is either OSS or part of a free tier, so there is no hidden costs behind this and so on. So you can try this if you like Pulumi, for example. You can also subscribe to our Pulumi service. There is a generous free tier where you have enough resources in the free tier to handle your infrastructure, your hobby project, and so on. So feel free. We also have a video of our CEO explaining again why Pulumi is open source and why Pulumi stays open source. And as you can guess, everything get triggered through some of the news we had this year. So feel free to just check this one out. Oh, we're not going to watch this. So Pulumi, what is the idea behind Pulumi and how does it work? So we have here 3 pillars divided between build, deploy, and manage. And as you can see on the build part, Pulumi offers a huge variety of programming language. So as you can guess now, the idea behind Pulumi is that you continue your programming, your generic programming language you are used to work, you are used to implement your business logic, and just continue and define also your infrastructure. So if I'm a TypeScript developer, and now I'm in charge because everything changed. We are 10 times engineers. Everybody expect now that we also know more about the infrastructure we're going to deploy or even define the infrastructure. I have now the chance to say, okay, I don't need to get an additional cognitive overload with learning a new DSL, for example. I can just say, okay, I continue. I have my tool chain. I have my IDE. I have everything set up. Just continue with this. So pick from the language you already feel familiar or see what the team is deciding, for example, and continue to define and build your infrastructure. And as you can see, IDE integration and tool integration, it's all what you have already in your IDE. So there's also no change. You don't need to install any additional IDE plugins. Everything gets done via your code sense inside your IDE, for example. We even have engineers in our company who use Vim, for example. I'm always amazed when they do a screen share and I see they have Vim, and I'm like, wow, that's next level. I, for example, use IntelliJ, so as an example. Package, you get all the Pulumi packages via your used package system. So, for example, npm. If I'm using TypeScript or JavaScript, I can just define them in my package JSON that I now need. And now we come to the middle part. For example, I want to create a deployment of, let me say, an EKS cluster using TypeScript. I can just include this AWS package into my package JSON and then start to code because it's just a new library, get it, edit. Middle part, very important, a rich ecosystem so you don't feel disconnected. You can use different cloud providers. And the good part is you can also provision some SaaS providers. So you're not only bound into the world of the cloud provider and what the cloud provider offers you, but for example, most people use Datadog, for example, on New Relic for all the observability parts. They can just continue this. So you can create your infrastructure, you can configure your infrastructure, and also configure, for example, Datadog all in one go, all in your programming language. Last part, yes, of course, integration into CI systems, because at the end of the day, Pulumi is a CLI you need to install, so you can just create the pipelines in your CI system of your choice. We have for GitHub, for example, also a dedicated GitHub action, but you can also use in other CI systems you are using just normal installing the Pulumi CLI and then executing. Okay, that's around this. Of course, here again, some of the new features you additionally get. I mean, yes, you have the definition of the infrastructure and so on. What will you get additionally? Yes, we have secret management. So this is all inbuilt but replaceable. I like this approach very much. When you start, you can say, okay, I'm using the Pulumi approach for handling my secrets. Then you can also commit your code, for example, in your Git repository. Nothing gets leaked, for example. But then maybe the more you grow, your CISO starts to say, hey, what about we use our own KMS, for example, or we switch, for example, to one of the cloud providers. You can substitute this one and say, okay, now we're going to use AWS Secret Manager, for example. Preview plans, very important to see if there's any changes, any breaking changes, CI/CD integration I just mentioned, webhooks, REST API, every goodie you need. Okay, quickly, an idea about the architecture about Pulumi. So the Pulumi CLI is the main part of our whole system. And when we start to write a Pulumi program, independent of which language we are using, a language host gets started. This is an own gRPC microservice. And this one is communicating with the CLI in the moment we just execute, for example, the Pulumi up command. Then the CLI detects, okay, which provider it's going to need. So if I, for example, created in TypeScript my AWS deployment, it will detect I need the AWS provider. If it's not already installed in your system, it will automatically download this one from GitHub, the binary for the provider, and then start also the provider. So as you can see, one microservice for your language host, the second one or multiple ones for your providers, and then the communication is all done via gRPC calls, typically create, update, and delete. And depending on the outcome, everything gets written to a state. So Pulumi is also having a state file comparing the results of any operations with the state file and deciding, depending on this, to say, okay, there is a drift or there is a change. I need to update my state file, for example. Here, you have also a huge variety of different state backends. So you can use our Pulumi cloud service, or you can even host it on your own. We have multiple customers who need to manage their own state files. So they use, for example, the classic one is an S3 bucket. But as I mentioned, if you don't want to handle your state file, which are highly encouraged, independent of what IAC tool you're using, don't go into this road of handling your state files, because when your state files gets accidentally deleted and so on, it's really a big thing to get everything again back managed by your IAC tool, managed by Pulumi, because you need then to rebuild your state file. So better not handling this on your own, just use the Pulumi cloud. As I mentioned, the free tier is more than enough. So now we come to a definition how a Pulumi program is looks like, and this will be also very useful when we later see some of the actions. So we have our Pulumi project, and the Pulumi project contains now a Pulumi program. I hope the colors, you can see the colors. So a Pulumi program is really the folder where your pulumi.yaml file lies in, and defining your stack. So saying, okay, the runtime is, for example, TypeScript or is Go. So this is definition, description, and some of the config values you want to set on a program level. Then we come into the second part. It's the stacks. So most of the time, stacks are, our customers use stacks in terms of defining the environment. So we have most of the time people use dev QA or prod or whatever the naming convention is inside the company. Recently, with all the ephemeral stack movement going on, which is very, very useful, we also see more and more people using some own naming convention for the ephemeral stacks. So feel free, you can choose whatever you want. The most common one people use is dev QA and prod. And there you can start now to define specific config values depending on your stack. So imagine you say, okay, per default, I want that every EKS cluster has always 6 nodes, just making up some stuff. So, but for a dev or for an ephemeral environment, maybe this is not necessary, because you're not trying to test now some kind of reliability or some kind of availability stuff. You just want to see if the application is deploying fine on your Kubernetes cluster. Then you can override, for example, in your stack definition, the amount of nodes for this EKS cluster. So you see, you have different ways to tweak your settings in different areas, stack config and then program config with default. The magic happens now in the resource block. These are our smallest building. We call them, joke always, our Lego bricks. So here we can really start to take out and say, okay, I'm going to need a subnet. I'm going to need a VNet. So defining all your cloud resources. And let me see, yeah. And every cloud resource has an input and an output. So now you can say, okay, for my VNet, maybe I have to define some specific values. Maybe I have to define a tag. And you can just insert these values into your VNet definition, for example. But the resource is also creating some output values, for example, an ID. This ID you can take as an input for your next resource. So as you can see, everything becomes now depending on each other. You can think about a graph getting built in the background where there's a dependency, for example, so you cannot create a subnet before you created your VNet, or you cannot create your gateway. So Pulumi detects this and will execute all the creation and all the modification of these resources depending on the previous resource. So sometimes you will see that resources get very quickly created because there is no dependency, so you will get quickly delivered with the results of this creation. Sometimes you will see that it goes step by step because it knows, first of all, I have to create the VNet and then the subnet and so on and so on. So here again, the graph creation is very fancy. And then you get also very good provisioning times when you have this kind of detection, which resources you can create in parallel and which resources have some dependency. Last but not least, what is very interesting is also that you can define inputs on a project level. So this is very, very useful if we start to think about separation of concern, maybe, or maybe you're going to build a Pulumi program for the perfect database setup as part of the database team, for example, now. And then you define just the input variables and say, okay, I want that people only can tweak, for example, the classical t-shirt size and say, okay, I need a database of size S. And people know, for example, in the internal developer portal, there is written what size S means, for example, and then they can just choose. So you can hide all the complexity, everything inside your Pulumi project. People can consume your Pulumi project, can define some of the values, and just continue working with this. We call this concept then to consume a different project inside my project. We call it stack reference, and you can just reference this stack you may not own, but you can get the values out of it. And then, for example, on the database creation, it's always important to have the URL of the database or the admin password and so on, because you're going to provision some tables inside. Yeah, that's it. So this is the Pulumi high-level view. Of course, there's much more. When you start to work more in detail, you will see some more stuff you may need for your project. But in a nutshell, this is how Pulumi is working. Okay, let's switch to the AI part. So AI continues to rise. I think I don't need to explain anything additionally. We all now should, if you don't live under a rock or something like this, or completely against AI, we all saw now in social medias and product announcement that AI is really dominating the market of all the new products coming out. And there's a report, I put the link also underneath to it, where it says, okay, by 2022, it's from IDC, AI will dramatically increase developer velocity and generate code to meet functionality of business requirements for 70% of new digital solution in production. This is really, really huge. And honestly, I can see this on my own also from the way I'm working. So for example, I have Pulumi AI and I have GitHub Copilot, for example. And I'm now so used to this. So when I create, for example, code, I really get the help of two different AI systems for me to generate quicker and better my code. So what does it mean? I mean, will AI replace now us as programmers? Is this now the future? Will I lose my job, for example? So most of the time, yes, sometimes this happens also. So you go to, for example, here, ChatGPT, and then bam, you get an error message. This is just a joke, but this happens, for example. So don't be afraid. You will be not replaced. I mean, I can't say this 100%. I don't have now, I can't see in the future and so on. But for the moment, I will say, don't be afraid. Don't give up your job and say, okay, you will become now whatever different career path you had in mind. So don't give up on this one. You can still become a programmer and continue your programming career, because AI will not, for the moment, replace us developer, but we will see a growing influence of AI on programming in different areas. So we see us supporting. So, for example, bootstrapping. bootstrapping is very, very cool when using with AI. So you will see this, for example, in Pulumi AI. Pulumi AI helps you really, really good to bootstrap a new project or bootstrap a question you may have. Task automation, this is also a very, very good job where AI can help us here. Bug fixing, honestly, this is also very, very good. I'm often using parts of my code, for example, feed it into the AI system and ask them to say, hey, what is the issue here? Why do I get a null pointer exception? Or why do I have a specific error? Sometimes I just copy also in my IDE the error message out. In Rust, for example, I'm not a very good Rust programmer. I'm still in the learning of Rust. So when I see an error message, I just copy paste the error message, go into my system, for example, ChatGPT, or now with Copilot Chat, and ask the system and say, hey, what is the issue? And most of the time I get a new idea. It's similar like working with your colleague in the office and you ask them also. I mean, sometimes they are also not right. And sometimes they hit or give you an idea and you keep on continuing to investigate the issue. Next point is also code optimization. You may already try this also. Take some code and ask the AI and say, hey, can we shrink this down? Is there a different way to handle this? Is the, I don't know, 3 loops inside each other? Is this necessary? Is there a new way? And most of the time you get a new suggestion or maybe an idea on how you could optimize your code. This is also very good. And me, as you see now in Pulumi, for example, we have the situation that we support multiple languages. So we have to be always quick with translating one code from Go, for example, to TypeScript. And this is working really, really fine when you have the right model underneath in your system, that you can really get your TypeScript code translated relatively close to the original code, but in a different programming language. So code translation is really, really a cool functionality and a cool way that AI can help us. And this is also something very interesting, code interpretation. I love this functionality of AI. So I can really take code from somebody else, just feed it into the system and tell, hey, can you explain me what this code is doing? And yes, still I need to know, maybe I need to, because we have still the issue with hallucinations. So we cannot 100% say, hey, the AI is explaining the code now, is it right or not? But still, there's a high percentage that the explanation is right or helps you to understand the code. You can build on and say, okay, this is maybe not really the right way, but the beginning or some of the things I have a clear understanding. So code interpretation is very good and is a way to help you. But again, AI is stupid still. So now comes the and it's limited. So here comes the question. I just mentioned this before. Where are the limitations, and what are the limitations of AI? And of course, there are several limitations we have currently. So I picked some of them and say, okay, for me, AI still lacks the human creativity, the intuition, and the domain expertise. This is something. The models become better and better, and I'm sure this is also something we will see in the future also increase. Currently, it's like this, that we humans have still, when we build up our domain expertise and we have our creativity and understand things which AI currently is not capable. And the last thing is depends on which system you are using. An AI system is most of the time trained on historical data. If you're not really tweaking the system or owning the system, it can be that it's not always up to date, especially in our area here with in our DevOps area or the platform engineer area, where new tools appear quite quickly. For example, it is highly possible that the AI model you are using doesn't know anything about this. And then you come into a situation maybe where the risk of hallucinated answers is too high, for example. So this is also one of the limitations to keep in mind. We, for example, at Pulumi, we train our AI model on our own providers. So they are always aware of the providers we have currently. When there is a change in the providers, this will be quickly feeded back into the AI model underneath Pulumi AI. But again, if you use a different system, it may be that it's come up with some stuff which is completely outdated or not valid anymore. So what can we say? AI is just a collaboration. So we have to think about that in the future, the machine or the AI system will become somebody like a programming buddy, somebody we work together. And as we worked, for example, with humans, when we ask the human, we always still have to think about, okay, is this 100% always the truth? Is it right? But we will see that we will start to work more with the system like we would work with a programming buddy. So I can see having, I would like to see a future where you can have 3-4 models, for example, ChatGPT, Pulumi AI, and for example, IntelliJ AI Essential, working together like a pair programming session or a mob programming session, and you just get input from the different systems and build up the best code. This will be awesome. Next point, and this is something I have to be honest on this, AI is also something where we can really earn much money. So there was a BIS report and says there will be, by 2024, there will be new, this is only for America, for example, 130,000 new AI-related jobs generated. And this is just for 2024. So we see also an increase of the market asking now for AI, for folks with AI knowledge. Now we leave a little bit the productivity support from the systems to say, okay, if I start now to work more with the AI system itself, start to think about, okay, entering the space and becoming not only consuming it, but also generating this, you will see the market is huge. And here was also some of the key findings from the report, that the salary expectation is really, really rising. So this is just for America, for example, and we can see that currently Arizona, for example, pays the highest for AI-related jobs. So we have here $450,000. I mean, honestly, if I would earn 450,000 euro, that's amazing. So not only as developer, we should embrace AI and let AI help us and adapt to the new systems and not be afraid for working with AI supported systems, but also think about how our own career can be transformed when we dive deeper into the AI area, because there will be also an outcome from money-wise. So I like this slide very much, and this is just for America. I did not find for my place, for example, for Germany, how this is going, but I expect also with a slightly delay, because we always a little bit delayed with any trend, also an increase here of new job offerings and also of a higher salary, because we become highly specialized people. Okay, so Pulumi AI, let's dive into Pulumi AI. So this is our mascot, you may know it, this is our platypus, and I also, of course, asked AI to say, hey, make an AI version or a robotic version of our mascot. So this is not officially, and I probably will get have to answer some questions why I'm not introducing a new mascot. This is just my interpretation using DALL-E, an AI system, and ask DALL-E, hey, can you create a robotic future version of our platypus? And I think it really looks cute. So what is Pulumi AI and when did we start it? So we started with Pulumi AI this year during KubeCon EU. We launched Pulumi AI. It started all with a dedicated web application. So under pulumi.com/AI, you will see our AI application. I will also share in the action part then some demos of it. Since the latest version of Pulumi, we also support AI inside our CLI. You will see this also in action. And we have now a tighter integration with the Pulumi cloud offering, we will see this also in the action. So these are some of the corners of our Pulumi AI offering. And enough with the slides. Let's me share some of the moving stuff. So let's open Pulumi AI. So first of all, we start with the classical approach. This is what we started with our first offering of Pulumi AI, our web app. It's also now really evolved much. So when you navigate to pulumi.com AI, you will be greeted with this page, and then you can start to use your natural language to ask for specifics. So here in my case, I can say, for example, hey, so this is completely improvised currently. I did not prepare some dedicated questions to show you that it's really reacting on the needs. You can change between different GPT models. So I stay on version V4 Turbo. And then you can also a little bit tweak how much chatty the system should be. So you can say, okay, I only want to see the code, or I also want that the system explains to me. So let me go on the explain part because I want to learn. Maybe I'm not 100% sure how AWS is working or how the system is working behind this. Let's Pulumi AI explain also for me. So in my case, I would like to say, create an EC2 instance with a public IP address because I want to expose a service because I want to connect via SSH to it. So now let's ask the question, the system. And as you can see here now, it starts now. So I get here some explanation, which I found very, very useful also to understand a little bit more about the resource I'm building here. So in this case, I get explained, okay, I will use the AWS EC2 instance resource from the AWS Pulumi package. And I'm going, if I want to connect via SSH, I also need to create an AWS key pair and yeah, everything else. And now we come to the good part. We also get now our bootstrapping code. So I can literally see how this is working and copy paste the stuff. So I will use this also. So here's a breakdown explaining me also a little bit more. I mean, honestly, I wrote blogs in this type. So now the system is doing this for me. So that's really, really awesome. So I'm not only seeing the story behind this, I see the example code, and I also see some breakdown of what the code is doing. So let me take this one and let me go to my system. And let's create a Pulumi AI. Okay, we call it classical test one. So, and then we can say Pulumi. So this is now a normal way I would bootstrap. I will show you also some other examples with the CLI, but if I want, for example, now create a TypeScript version, I would say Pulumi new. And then you see there's already the AI thing, but here I'm just going the template path and I say, okay, I want to use TypeScript. Blah. Def is fine. And we say EU central one. So now everything gets initialized. I mean, maybe you already have the Pulumi program already in place and you just need a snippet. So here in my case, I create a completely new one. So this is not 100% necessary in your use case. So come on, let's start. Okay. So, and now we can say, okay, trust the project. Okay. We see that the template created a Pulumi project, also created some boilerplate code, but this is not what we need. we're going to just copy paste now the whole stuff here inside. So this is the Pulumi code which gets generated. Yes, the public key I should change with my own public key, but this is not necessary currently. So let's see, do we get any squiggly lines? So as soon as the indexing is over, I also should see my IntelliJ. Can you stop the indexing so we can see that everything is working? Okay, so finish. Okay, that looks very, very good. So we can see it misses here, for example, the security groups. This is not created, so I could refine this in my IDE. I will just switch this. And now let's see if we say, make this bigger, and we say Pulumi preview. So we see that the plugin gets now downloaded, the AWS plugin, because I'm using a different version. Come on. This is something. Let's let him download this. But as you can see, everything looks quite fine. Yes, the instance type, and of course I need to be sure that I have the correct AMI. But here, in this case, it really helped me to bootstrap quickly my parts. So what I could go now here and say, code for the VPC group ID. So let me see if so. This will also create now the additional code here you can see now for the VPC group ID. So I get my security groups, I get my VPC added, and that looks very good. So I have my security group, 22 is open, outbound, inbound is set up, the block, yes, we need to be careful with this. So I get also security advices from Pulumi AI. That's really, really awesome. So perfect. Okay, let's see how our deployment is going. Oops, I need to quickly log in. Confirm and continue. Okay, that's fine. That was not so. Can you be a little bit quicker? And selecting my account. Okay. Okay, now I'm ready. I can say Pulumi preview, and this should give me now the Pulumi preview. Make sure that you have the region set. Let me see. What did I set wrong here? Oh yeah, okay, that's on mine. So you see, human mistake. But here we can see that the Pulumi preview gives me an output. I could now say Pulumi up, and that works fine. Okay, so this was the first case. The second one, to use Pulumi. So I asked now here the question, and I can say, and this is what I meant with the tighter integration with the Pulumi cloud. Here I have now the button to say, okay, can you deploy this please with Pulumi using Pulumi deployment, which is an additional service more on our cloud offering. So now I come now to my Pulumi Cloud UI. I can see my different dashboards and stacks. But the interesting part is here to say, okay, I want to deploy this now using Pulumi deployment. because I don't have a CI system. I want to use the CI system of Pulumi deployment, offering you a serverless approach to deploy Pulumi programs without the need of our own CI system. And now I can say, okay, let's, hello, Pulumi AI, give some description, blah, 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 give the stack name, and then I can choose which repository should be deployed, and then I can say, okay, please deploy this into the subdirectory, and then I can also deploy this over this approach. So this is one integration to use the result of Pulumi AI, and now we come to the last part. So we make a second one, and we say test 2. Okay, so let me clear this one. Okay, and now we can say again, Pulumi new. And as you saw before, I can choose now between existing templates or templates I created as part of a platform engineering team, or use here Pulumi AI. And now I'm also guided through a wizard. Let me open this a little bit more. So we say TypeScript. Now we can ask, we can enter our prompt, and I will use the same one I did here. So enter the same one. And I should get the output, the Pulumi AI response, and it looks very, very similar. Oh, in this case, it's also created me instantly the security group, which is nice. And now I can refine this. I can say, hey, I'm not very happy with this. I can say, can you always be nice to the AI? Can you use as instance type T3 small, please? And it should refine now, hopefully with the instance type T3 small. Yeah, perfect. That's good. And now use this program to create. So I say, yes, that's completely fine. Test 2. Oh, okay. I already have test AI. I can change the project description. I can choose the dev name. And you see, that's what I did before with a greenfield project, a bootstrap via the classical Pulumi new template approach. It will does everything for me. And now we look into the code. And should hopefully trust project. And yes, code is also here, everything pasted into the system. That's very nice. I get my export, I get my public IP, everything set up, and I can just continue working on this. So this could be your answer to your question, or it could be just a snippet you want to use in your Pulumi program. Create a different TypeScript file and just put it in and say, okay, make a function call or export this to say, okay, this is the way we always create EC2 instance, because this code snippet is part of a bigger story. So last but not least, let's also check what I said about code translation. So let me just take a code example, and then we restart here and say, TypeScript, can you translate this Terraform program into Pulumi TypeScript? So, and now, oops, I paste up a Terraform file into it and say here, it's also an EC2 creation here. So please, can you just get it out of the internet? So generate the program. So Pulumi AI is also capable, for example, to interpret Terraform. This can help a lot for translating existing Terraform files, for example, because you try to switch from Terraform to Pulumi, and hopefully, as we also saw some examples, this should generate us the TypeScript code. So we see a provider gets generated. That's very cool. And we see here now the user data creation. It's also cool. Instance type is set. And hopefully this should give us the finished code. Yeah. Okay, then let's head over to our wait, it was not finished. So text is set as we saw before. Okay, so I managed also to use Terraform code. So the last part we could do is using AI to translating from one language to another. So we can go translate this Pulumi TypeScript code to Go, to Pulumi Go. Okay, and let's see that this is also working. Okay, here it starts to think a little bit longer. Okay, and this is the translated code in Go. And again, I can just copy paste it into my existing Go project, start a new one, or execute this question inside the CLI and then get instantly my Pulumi program up and running. So, okay, we saw some of the way to use Pulumi AI, how Pulumi AI can help us. There are also some ideas to integrate it also into different IDEs. So for example, having a VS Code plugin that you can also communicate with Pulumi AI and ask questions there instantly and not need to switch to a dedicated website or use the CLI, for example. Again, everything is in the creation, and the CLI part, for example, is fresh released today or yesterday from my time zone, and always looking for your feedback and get some more out. So follow up the blog article about the new Pulumi AI functionalities, the integration, the CLI, and integration into the cloud offering is behind the first link, and then of course pulumi.com on the second one. And with this, I just switch back from my monologue to Kunal. So
Amazing. Well, thanks for sharing, Engin. And I believe this is a great example around the point you mentioned earlier. Is AI going to replace your jobs? In the short term, I don't think so. But like you demonstrated, it's a great way for you to enhance your day-to-day activities, and not like like a replacement to your job, but as a helping hand. We are almost running out of time now, to close to 1 hour, so we have to wrap it up. But we can take a few questions that I compiled. Someone is asking, are there any like prerequisites that are required for folks who want to use Pulumi, or can they just get started?
just head over. I mean, all you need is your IDE of your choice or whatever you're using for programming, for example. So one of the requirements, yes, for sure, is you need to know some of the programming language we are offering. We also have Pulumi YAML, for example. So you could start with the Pulumi YAML, for example, and later convert to a specific language, and then just download the Pulumi CLI and then start. So that's really 1-2 steps.
I'll leave all the links in the description below for folks to check it out. And the last question is, are there any upcoming features or developments in the pipeline that attendees should be excited about?
I mean, there's always the engineers are always hard working on new functionalities. So currently, as you see now, this enhancement of the Pulumi AI is something which keeps on going. And then, of course, the whole platform engineering part. So when you come to our Pulumi cloud, for example, you will see some improvements in regarding in this area. So platform engineering subjects are embedded in. So you have template support and also getting hopefully um, additional functionalities. I'm not going to spoil or wrongly say anything, and the manager says like, "Ah, you promised a function."
Yeah, but I think you can follow Pulumi on like Twitter and stuff too if you want to be
Mm.
up to date with all the recent announcements. But yeah, it was really fun. Thanks for sharing again. Learned a lot from
Yeah,
you, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one. And this is being recorded as well, so if you missed out, don't worry. You can watch it later on. And yeah, see you in the next one. Bye.
yeah. Thanks a lot. Bye.